JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Monday, June 9th, 8:58 a.m. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures slightly in the green here, about up a little over a tenth of a percent after last week's 1.5% rally. A lot of rockiness last week, but thankfully, oh, I shouldn't say thankfully, but jobs report came out better than expected on Friday, kind of gave a little relief, a bounce. I wouldn't even call it a relief bounce because the market's it's not bouncing from lows, but amidst what happened with Wednesday, the ADP data coming out worse than expected. And I think there was a lot of folks who thought this is the start of it, right? I think all the bears are waiting, even some of the analysts and even the big banks are all waiting for the data to come out that's finally going to say, we were right, we're in a recession is coming. And it just hasn't happened, right? And there was PMIs, the services data came out worse than expected, showing a contraction last week. So all this stuff, it's like they're just waiting. It's almost like they'll be celebrating when we're in a recession. Who knows? Then of course we had the Musk Trump spat last week, and it almost looks like Musk he deleted some of his tweets, and now he's retweeting some of Trump's things in regard to what's going on in California. So it looks like he's, I don't know, someone tapped him on the shoulder, say, hey, this is probably not good for your business or whatever. So it looks like he's pulling back on that. So outside of that, I mean, this week we have CPI data. So CPI data tomorrow, very important. And it's always important, but I think this time, especially with yields continuing to rise, and we have this whole big battle over the tax bill and the US deficit, which has been there for forever. Uh, it just the lower than expected inflation data will give more fuel for the Fed to cut rates. So I think Powell won't be caught between being pressured by the current administration and kind of having to balance. Hey, we could cut rates if we want to, but we're holding, we're holding on. I think if the inflation data comes in cooler than expected, I think that'll be the time. That'll set the moment, the stage where he can kind of say, hey, we're still independent of the current administration, but we're gonna we're gonna cut rates. So hopefully that'll happen. We also have earnings this week. You have Adobe, Oracle, nothing crazy there. Restoration Hardware at the end of the week, but premium is too crazy for me to look at. And then a lot of headline-driven stuff. So we have and GameStop tomorrow after the close too. And then you have China and U.S. talking in London today. I'm sure there'll be some headlines there, and who knows what other headlines are going to move markets here this week. But needless to say, I was talking about 586 to 597 on the SPY. Finally got over that threshold last week. We were over 600 for some time on Friday. Closed at 599 and change. And I would love to see a gap and run, but sometimes consolidation bodes well for highs, more highs down the line, right? So consolidation here, I put 597 to 604. A couple times we hit 604 back in February and then in December. So that's been a key spot. So that might provide some resistance on the way up. And then I think if we can break into all-time highs, then you start, and I always use this comment, new highs beget new highs. Typically, once you break out, it's blue skies. There's less resistance. The sellers are kind of gone. And who knows where that takes us? 625 on the SPY. Crazy as that sounds, you just can't rule it out, especially if the hard data continues to be strong. So that's kind of the overall market. At the same time, you gotta be quick to realize that surprises come out of nowhere. I'm not saying there's no risk that there could be some headline or China-U.S. talks today don't work out, and there's a headline all somewhere futures down 2-3%. That's still open scenarios, right? But that's the scenarios that are always there. Huh? I was putting on a watch list this morning. It's like the great Moody's credit rating downgrade of U.S. debt, and you would think that happened years ago. No, that happened in May, So all these walls of worry, the deep seek events, all those events we've been able to climb. So, but I think there's still a lot of folks waiting to hit that sell button just on any headline that might be construed negative. So CPI data could be it tomorrow. If it comes in higher than expected, then you got to worry that yields are going to soar. And then this debt situation is just going to be even more unmanageable. And don't want to get it. I mean, it's already unmanageable, right? So it'll just add more credence to that. Something has to happen. Something has to change. And if they don't change it, then I think the market will start forcing the change, right? Which would force the Fed's hand and then so on and so forth. All right. That's overall market. So now just individual names. Lemonade up 11% last week on Friday. It was frustrating because when I got the calls looking to break out, then it seems like the shorts come in at the open, take advantage of low volume, sell it off, no news, no catalyst. And then finally back over $40 in the afternoon on Friday. It was actually in the overnight hours like 41.42, and here it is right over $40. If the shorts don't come in and push the stock lower here, this is at February highs, and it only was over 40 for like a session or two in February. I think it heads to 45.50 this week. Call me crazy. So my calls are solidly green. If I get a chance to lock some in to cover costs over 100%, I will. Then I'll ride the rest. I was looking last week and even today. I'm like, do I add more strikes? Oh, is CPI Wednesday or it's Tuesday? I thought it was tomorrow morning. Am I not correct there? Uh, I was looking to add some more strikes on Lemonade, but I don't want to be in a spot where the shorts come in and if it's Wednesday, it's Wednesday. I'll correct it later. So I don't want to be in a spot where I'm, um, the shorts come in, I get the calls and then push it down 5%. It's been volatile. So I'll just hold the June strikes. If you see opportunities, maybe if you can hold over 40 here today, I'll look for more strikes there. That's Lemonade. GameStop reports tomorrow after the close. I put this on my watch list. I've been talking about it's not even about the earnings anymore. I mean, the core business is really not the story now. It's about how they plan to manage this Bitcoin treasury situation. Are they going to use their cash on hand? They're going to do offerings. How much do they plan to do? How many offerings? I don't know if there's going to be any updates. There's no press conference, so it's all going to be the filings and the press release. So when did they buy? How much did they get the Bitcoin at 80,000? Did they get it at 100,000? These are all the questions that hopefully get answered a little bit. And I think if it comes out positive, and I think they continue to hold their cash hoard as a passive income instrument and use offerings to raise capital to do the Bitcoin treasury, I think the stock heads into the 40s. So that's kind of the thought process there. I'll continue to hold my July strikes. Joby, I was talking about yesterday, Friday afternoon. You had that executive order about the drones. I forget exactly what the wording of it was, but in there was the EVALT, the electric vehicle takeoff and landings, and talking about regulatory environment being pulled back, things like that. All just bodes well for Joby and Archer. Of course, I like Joby here. Hopefully, the kick it needs to get over and stay over $9. If it does, I might look for some more strikes there. Same with Yext. It's actually not over $9 here in the pre-market. If I get a chance to close out my nines to cover costs, I'll do that at the open or during the morning or afternoon. And then I might look for some July strikes. July 10s look interesting on a risk board basis if you can hold gains here. Because, I mean, you take a look, it was volatile, right? The day after earnings, the huge move all the way back down to 8. Then on Friday, down to 860, but then found a bid, closed in the green, bolt, reversing the losses. I think it just means buyers are here. And once the sellers tire out, I think it's onward and upward. VKTX, I mean, I keep saying nothing more to add on that. I'm just going to hold to data, but the premiums kind of leaked out a little bit on over the last couple weeks. I'm not going to add more August strikes. The July 40s look interesting on a risk reward basis, right? So if there's an upgrade or some other catalyst, or the data comes out substantially quicker than expectations, those might be interesting. So I might add some of those strikes. I was posting in the chat room. They had their phase 1 study. I think it was 5.2% weight loss as a 28-week study. And there's different cohorts of the milligram dosage. And the difference between VKTX and some of these other companies is the adverse effects. And there's little to no adverse effects on most of these dosage rates. And the thing is, if they up the dosage, they might get better results. And if there's better results with no adverse effects, I mean, it's best in breed already. It'll be a much superior product. So that's kind of like the upside, right? And you would think, I think their study's 13 weeks instead of being 4 weeks. So obviously the expectations are higher that there'll be a substantial weight loss with their old data. But if it is, I think the stock trades substantially higher, and then the buyout rumors will start to come. So that's kind of thought process there. Don't have time here to rant on that one. Still have some of my eyes on some other names here, and I'm probably not going to be too aggressive today into CPI data. If it is tomorrow, if it's not, I'll check that out after I get off the rant. Roku, I was staring at it all day on Friday. It's one of my favorite names, and here it is, recouping the losses from its earnings from last quarter, and now you start to look at that 105 handle from back in the middle of February. To me, the story hasn't changed. The content wars are still going, right? What this morning, HBO Max, which it was Max, HBO, whatever you want to call it. Looks like they're going to spin that off. So it just shows the value of some of these a la carte services, and Roku's the platform to rule them all. There where you can view them all. So, and they've been doing such a great job in regards to growth and now international and monetizing the platform. I can go on, but don't be surprised I had some calls there. I was looking at the June 85s. We'll see how things play out here today. And then still looking at Pool, TKO. And then the last but not least, I've been talking about SERV the last couple of days. It always seems like these sectors go. You had the AI, the quantum, semis, like over the years, back in the day, it used to be solar. You can go down the line, 3D stocks. I can go down the line of all these sectors that have found massive runs, and then they come back down to earth. And you have to think that people looking for the next thing, and robotics is one of them. I mean, it's not a surprise, but here's SERV just sitting there, and then, you know, was all the way up in the 20s back in February. I'm not saying it heads back there, but it could be a name that just continues to catch fire. It was up nicely on Friday, up 13%. I was looking at June 15s. Uh, I'll wait for the open, see how things turn out. I don't want to see like a reversal, and then don't be surprised if I had some strikes there. And yeah, still watching Reddit, you know, over 120 on Friday. Well, anyway, that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back. Rock and roll.